Court is now in session. Please be seated.
Good afternoon. All right, we're here this afternoon on the matter of the state of South Carolina versus Dale P., which is matter number 16F1001. Are the parties ready to proceed?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's have the parties note their appearance on the record, starting with the state.
My name is Abby Wilson.
My name is Lexi Nelson.
My name is Seth Bennett.
My name is Nash Hawley.
Yeah. My name is Dale P.
Okay. And Dale P. is the defendant in this matter. All right. We're set for trial in this matter here today. Do either of the parties have any pretrial motions? I take that as a no. All right. You begin, obviously, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we begin a trial by allowing the, normally I would give you a charge as to listening to the evidence and listening to the credibility of the witnesses and things like that, but we're going to skip the charge, but normally the next step in a trial would be the opening statements. Does the prosecution have an opening statement they would like to give?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, you may proceed.
Your Honor, and ladies and gentlemen of the jury, my name is Lexi Nelson, and this is my co-counsel, Abby Wilman. We are here today on behalf of the young Brian Hamilton, who was viciously killed while enjoying what seemed like a normal walk home from school with his close friends. It was a beautiful afternoon on March 12, 2004, but Brian had no idea what horror lied in store for him on that fatal day, which ended with his throat being torn apart by the defendant's trained wolf dog. Brian and his friends were tossing around a tennis ball as they walked down the defendant's street, Old South Place. They walked down the street every school day since it was the only route to the school they attended. At approximately 3:30 in the afternoon, the defendant heard some thumping on the side of her house. She opened her door and started yelling at the kids to stop. When she turned to go back inside, Brian tossed the ball one more time and went through the open door without hitting Peek at all. Peek was then heard saying something unintelligible that sounded like a foreign language, as eyewitness Chris Holliday will testify. That's when her trained wolf dog rushed out of the house and lunged at Brian's throat. The poor boy was left at the mercy of this large, powerful, bloodthirsty wolf dog. Several minutes passed before she called off her trained wolf dog. As soon as Peek gave the command for Zeus to stop, he trotted over and sat next to her. She made no attempt to help Brian during or after the attack. Some even say she was smiling while watching the attack happen. According to Officer Terry Culbertson's testimony, you will hear that when the police and ambulance arrived at the scene, Peek was sitting on her porch with her wolf dog under control, sitting calmly beside her. Zeus was completely under control at this point. When the officer tried to put a leash on the dog to take him to the pound, the trained wolf dog growled but did not attack. Peek refused to help the officer, so the dog had to be tranquilized. Brian was transported to the hospital, but it was too late. The dangerous wolf dog had done too much damage to save this boy's life. Mr. Pat DeMiro will testify that this was not the first time that dangerous wolf dogs have attacked people. We are here to see that Peek is convicted of murder in possession of a dangerous animal. We seek justice for this boy that was slain. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Nelson. Does the defense have any opening statement?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Howard.
May it please the court, Your Honor, and ladies and gentlemen of the jury. My name is Nash Hawley, and this is my co-counsel, Seth Bennett. We are gathered here this late afternoon to discuss the accident in which Mrs. Dale Peek is said to have committed her Luperhound Zeus to attack Brian Hamilton. The issue in the case today is whether Mrs. Dale Peek commanded Zeus to attack Brian following the incident when Brian and a couple of his friends were throwing a tennis ball at Mrs. Peek's house and directly at her. May I please state that Chris Holliday is the only witness present today that testifies that Mrs. Del Peak yelled some word in some foreign language after Brian threw the tennis ball for the 4th time. However, Mr. Gene Potter, who viewed the accident from his window, did not testify that Mrs. Peak yelled after Brian threw the tennis ball for the 4th time. The evidence will show that there's absolutely no proof that my client, Mrs. Del Peak, commanded Zeus to attack Brian Hamilton. Leslie Harris is a professional dog trainer who specializes in Lupo Hounds, Great Danes, and Shepherds. She was the person who originally recommended a Lupo Hound for Mrs. Peak. After Officer Terry Culbertson, she suggested she buy a dog for some protection. Del Peak lived alone, so it's understandable for her to want to have a friend and a companion. Gene Potter is one of Mrs. Del Peak's neighbors. On several occasions, he witnessed her being unable to control this very vicious animal. He also witnessed the accident. The prosecution is going to try to prove that the defendant commanded Zeus to attack Brian Hamilton from Chris Hawley's information, who is a juvenile delinquent. How can we believe someone who has a criminal record and was under traumatic stress during the time of the accident? Thank you.
Is the prosecution ready to proceed with their case in chief?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, would you like to call your first witness?
The prosecution would like to call Chris Holliday as our first witness.
All right, Mr. Holliday, if you'll come forward and be sworn. This gentleman right here will swear you.
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Please state your name and age for the record.
My name is Chris Holliday and I'm 13 years old.
Please tell the court how you know the defendant, Dale Peak.
Dale Peak's house is on the only road that leads to and from our school.
What is her reputation in the community?
Everybody knows Dale Peak. She's constantly complaining about everything.
The prosecution would like to enter the Briarcliff subdivision map into evidence as prosecution exhibit number 1.
All right, do you have exhibit number 1?
Yes.
Ms. Wilmer,
Yes.
have you shown it to counsel?
Yes.
All right, would you like to show it to the court? And to the witness? Any objection, Ms. Bennett or Ms. Halley, to that exhibit?
No, Your Honor.
All right, it'll be admitted.
Members of the jury, please take note of the fact due to Old South Place being the only road leading to and from the school, the children present at the time of the attack, as well as many other children, travel in front of Peak's house on a regular basis. Please tell the court what your relationship to the now deceased Brian Hamilton.
Brian is one of my best friends.
To your knowledge, how often did Peak complain to the youth bothering her and her property located on Old South Place?
Several times a week.
To your knowledge, were any of the pranks against Peak harmful?
No.
Were you present when Peak's guard dog attacked your friend Brian?
Yes.
Who else was with you?
My friend Jesse Pincelli.
Please give the court an account of what happened on March 12, 2004 at approximately 3:30 p.m.
Me, Jesse, and Brian were walking home from school and we found a tennis ball and started tossing it back and forth to each other. Hit Peak's house a couple times, but only because we were trying to hit the tree in the front yard. Peak came out and started yelling something that sounded like a foreign language. Just as Peak was walking back inside, Brian threw the tennis ball one more time. Peak came back out and yelled something that I couldn't quite make out. Then Zeus, the guard dog, ran and jumped on Brian and started biting him. Me and Jesse were both screaming at Peak to call off the dog, but Peak just sat there and did nothing. It even looked like he was kind of smiling. A few minutes later, Peak finally called off the dog, and then the dog just immediately went over and sat next to Peak on the porch. A few minutes later, the ambulance and the cop car arrived. but Brian died later in the ambulance on the way to the hospital.
So Pete did say something before the dog attacked.
Yes.
Did you try to help Brian?
No, me and Jesse were both terrified of the dog that might try to attack us.
What was Pete doing during the attack?
He was just standing on the porch and kind of looked like he was smiling.
And how long did it take Pete to call the dog?
A few minutes.
Do you recall Pete saying anything to stop the dog from attacking Brian?
Something that kind of sounded like Stanley.
Did Pete look like she was in control of the dog?
Well, as soon as she called the dog off, the dog immediately went and sat next to her on the porch.
So Zeus did stop attacking Brian immediately after Pete issued the command, right?
Yes.
Did Pete help after the attack?
No, he refused the help.
No further honor. No further questions, Your Honor.
Any cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. What grade are you in?
I am in 8th grade.
Have you ever stolen anything from a store?
Yes.
And have you ever pranked my client?
We called his house and rang his doorbells a couple of times, but nothing harmful.
And did the police tell you to stop?
Yes.
Could you understand Mrs. Peak's accent?
No.
Did Mrs. Peak command you to attack Brian?
I don't know. I couldn't quite make out what she said before the attack.
Did Mrs. Peak tell Zeus heal?
She said something that sounded like Stanley, and then Zeus stopped the attack.
No further questions, Sean.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
All right. May this witness be excused, or is this witness subject to recall by one of the parties? Okay, you can be excused, sir. Do you have an additional witness?
Yes, Your Honor. The prosecution would like to call Dr. Patsy Merrill as our next witness.
All right, please come forward, doctor, and be sworn.
Raise your hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Please state your name for the record.
I'm Dr. Pat DeMuro.
Please tell the court your occupation.
I am a doctor of veterinary medicines and founder of SIDAP, Society for Elimination of Dangerous Animals and Pets.
What is the function or purpose of SIDAP?
SIDAP was founded to enact and vigorously reinforce laws against dangerous animals being used as pets.
In your sworn statement, you state that you have an expertise in the area of dangerous animals. Is that correct?
Yes,
How did you obtain your expertise?
I graduated from the University of Tennessee and majored in veterinary medicine and specialization in dogs.
Would you consider yourself an expert on the Lupo Hound breed?
Yes,
If it pleases the court, the prosecution would like to declare Pat DeMuro an expert on the Lupo Hound breed.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
He will be so recognized.
Are you familiar with the Smith's Guide to Canines?
yes,
The prosecution would like to enter the excerpt from Smith's Guide to Canines into evidence as prosecution exhibit number 2.
Have you published that to the other side?
Yes.
And have you shown it to the witness and so he can identify it?
No, but I will have him read something from it.
All right. Any objection to that exhibit?
No, Your Honor.
All right, it'll be admitted. Do you want to approach the witness to show him the copy?
Yes.
All right.
Would you please read the highlighted sections?
The Lupo Hound is a cross between a bull mastiff and a wolf. The Lupo Hound is a large, powerfully built dog. This breed of dog is lively, fearless, and intelligent. Because of its nature, it should be under the command of an energetic master.
So it is half wolf, right?
Yes.
How would you classify the wolf dog breed?
A dangerous animal.
Did you write an article regarding to the Lupo Hound for the Briarcliff Daily?
Yes.
The prosecution would like to enter the Briarcliff Daily article into evidence as prosecution exhibit number 3.
Any objection?
No.
All right, it'll be admitted.
We would like him to read from it too.
Well, are you going to show it to him?
Yes. Would you please read the highlighted sections?
The Lupo Hound is a cross between a bull mastiff and a wolf. The breed was developed in the early 80s in the hopes that these animals could be bred to serve as guards at various remote military bases in the country. The Army subsequently abandoned the project because they were unable to exercise adequate control over these dogs. The owners of Lupo Hounds should take whatever steps are necessary to isolate these animals from contact with other persons.
In your expert opinion, please tell the court some common traits of this wolf dog breed.
The dog is energetic and lively, and it is also aggressive.
Is the wolf dog hard to control?
Yes.
What traits does the owner need in order to own and control a wolf dog?
The dog's owner needs to have an almost unlimited supply of energy, never letting the dog out of its sight or having any freedom.
Have there been other recorded attacks by wolf dogs?
Yes, 24 others in the past 20 years.
What was the result of most of these attacks?
Permanent disfiguration.
What was the design purpose of this wolf dog?
The dog was designed to guard toxic waste dumps for the military.
Why did the Army stop using these wolf dogs?
The Army stopped using the dogs because they couldn't exercise enough control over the dogs at all times.
Should the defendant have done more research before getting the dog?
Yes.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Any cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. Did you say that the Lupo Hound was bred to be an independent and fearless guard dog?
Yes.
Did the U.S. Army use Lupo Hounds to guard toxic waste dumps?
Yes.
This breed of dog is lively, fearless, and intelligent. A barker, which is suspicious of strangers. Because of its nature, it should be under the command of an energetic master. That was the statement for Smith's Guide for Canines. Did you say that Smith's Guide to Canines is an understatement?
Yes.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Any redirect?
No.
All right, sir, you may be excused.
What should I do with it?
Just give it to the clerk there. And that was exhibits 2 and 3, I guess. Are they pre-marked?
Halfway.
All right, does the prosecution have any additional witnesses?
Yes, Your Honor. The prosecution would like to call Officer Terry Culbertson as our next witness.
All right, officer, if you'll come forward.
Please raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
Yes.
You can take a stand.
Please state your name for the record.
Terry Culbertson.
Please tell the court your occupation.
I'm a senior police officer. I was the animal control officer in Denmark, South Carolina.
Please tell the court how you know the defendant in Dale Peak?
Dale calls about twice a week to complain about people harassing her.
The prosecution would like to enter the summary of police reports into evidence as prosecution exhibit number 4.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
It'll be admitted.
Did you advise the defendant to get a dog?
Yes.
Why?
I thought the barking would scare the kids away.
After Peak purchased the wolf dog known as Zeus, did you try to convince her to get a different breed?
Yes.
And why?
I'd heard of loop hounds being very dangerous.
Did you provide Peak with any information about the wolf dog breed being dangerous?
Yes.
Where did you get that information?
The library.
You stated that Peak often called the police to complain about harassment to her or her property. Did you get calls from other residents about kids harassing them?
Yes.
Was anyone ever caught for these seemingly harmless pranks?
No.
Please give the court an account of what happened on March 12, 2004 at approximately 3:30 p.m.
We got an anonymous call that said something terrible was happening at Peak's house. So I was sent over to investigate. And when I got there, I observed a teenage male laying on the ground with blood all over his clothes and the ground.
The prosecution would like to enter the 911 transcript into evidence as prosecution exhibit number 5.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
It'll be admitted.
According to this report, how long did the attack last?
At least 3 minutes.
What time did you arrive on the scene?
3:42.
Where was the defendant when you arrived on the scene?
Sitting on her porch.
Where was the wolf dog Zeus when you arrived at the scene?
Sitting next to Peak.
Did it appear that the defendant had Zeus under control at that point?
Yes.
Did the defendant try to help you when you got there?
No.
How did Zeus act when you tried to put a leash on him?
He growled but did not attack.
Did he cooperate when you told her that you needed to take Zeus away and he would probably need to be destroyed?
No.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Andy Cross?
Yes, Your Honor. You suggest that my client, Mrs. O'Peak, purchased a dog for protection purposes.
Yes.
And have you ever specifically worked with Lupo hounds?
No.
And was Dopey stunned after the accident?
Yes.
No further questions, John.
Any redirect?
No.
All right, officer, you may step down. Any additional witnesses from the state?
No, Your Honor.
All right, does the state rest?
Yes.
All right, any motions at this time?
Yes, Your Honor, I would like to call Mrs. Dale Peak to the stand.
Well, wait a minute. Do you have any motions to make at this time, or do you want to just
No,
go
Your Honor.
forward with your case in chief?
No, Your Honor, I would like to move ahead.
All right, in that case, there being no motions at this time, Ms. Bennett, you wish to go forward with the defense case?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, you may call your first witness.
I'd like to call Mrs. Dale Peak to the stand.
Mrs. Peak, if you'll come forward and be sworn.
Please raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
Yes. Where were you born, Mrs. Peak?
Germany.
How old are you?
I am 55 years old.
What are some things you enjoy to do on a daily basis?
I used to enjoy tending to my lawn and caring for my rose bushes.
Has your property ever been vandalized?
Yes.
Do you know why it's been vandalized?
No, but I have an assumption. I believe it is the teenagers that are living by my house. They just won't leave me alone.
Have you repeatedly called the police to report these incidents?
Yes, but they said they can't do anything unless I can identify who's doing this to me.
Did Officer Terry Culbertson suggest you purchase a guard dog for protection purposes?
Yes, she said the barking would keep the kids away.
Who did you contact for an expert opinion on guard dogs?
Leslie Harris. She's a certified dog trainer of Great Danes, Shepherds, and Lupo Hounds.
What dog did you purchase?
A Lupo Hound. His name is Zeus.
Were you frightened of Zeus when you first began his training?
Yes, I was a little leery, but Leslie Harris assured me he would be protective of me and my home.
On March 12th at 3:30, did teenagers walking home from school begin repeatedly throwing a tennis ball at your home?
Yes, I walked down and told them to stop and turned to go back inside. The ball flew by me and into the house.
Did you command your Lupo Hound, Zeus, to attack Brian Hamilton?
No, he attacked of his own accord.
Were you shocked at this?
Yes, I was stunned.
Did you call out the command word to heel, stance?
Yes.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Any cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. Could you prove it was the neighborhood kids provoking or pranking you?
No.
The summary of police reports showed you called the police 14 times in 2 months, about twice a week, complaining of disturbance of peace and stolen property. So, someone rang your doorbell and took your newspaper. Were you ever physically harmed by these actions?
No.
So, the police did advise you to get a dog.
Yes.
Your witness statement says that you read the Briarcliff News article stating the dangerous nature of the Lupo Hound, right?
Yes.
Yet, you impulsively purchased Zeus on the first day you saw him. Is that correct?
Yes.
Did the police advise you to get a different breed after you purchased the wolf dog?
Yes.
That was because they thought the Lupo Hound was too dangerous, correct?
Yes.
Did the prank stop after you got Zeus?
No.
Was Zeus trained to defend and protect you?
Yes.
The dog training of your wolf dog included training to attack only upon command from you, correct?
Yes.
What was the command word for attack?
Stag it.
What was the command word for kill?
Stand seat.
Did you command Zeus to attack Brian Hamilton on March 12, 2004?
No.
The prosecution would like to enter Dale Peak's sworn witness statement into evidence as prosecution exhibit 6.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
They'll be admitted.
I would like to have the defendant, wait, should I read it? The defendant, okay, I would like to have the defendant read the highlighted section.
I'm real sorry that the boy died, but it is really those kids' fault. If they hadn't been bothering me and Zeus, none of this would have happened.
Miss Peak, oh wait. So you believe that Brian Hamilton is responsible for his own death, correct?
Yes.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
All right, ma'am, you may step down. Just give it to the bill. I mean, the clerk. Any additional witnesses?
Yes, Your Honor. I would like to call to the stand Miss Leslie Harris.
Ms. Harris?
Please raise your hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes. Miss Harris, are you a member of MADCAP, Maligned Animals Defense Committee, and affiliated pet owners?
Yes.
How long have you been in the kennel business?
All my adult life.
Are you a certified guard dog trainer for Great Danes, Shepherds, and Lupo Hounds?
Yes.
Your Honor, I would like to establish Miss Leslie Harrison as an expert witness.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
She'll be recognized.
Did you assure my client, Mrs. Dale Peak, that Lupo Hounds were safe and that the Lupo Hound would satisfy her needs?
Yes.
During Zeus's training, did Mrs. Peak seem frightened of Zeus?
Yes.
Did you grant graduation?
Only if they came a month later because they needed a little bit more polish.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Any cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. did the defendant tell you was the reason she wanted to get a dog?
Because the kids were terrorizing her property.
Is it true that the defendant seemed leery of your suggestion to get a wolf dog?
Yes.
Was that because of the article the Briarcliff Daily ran about the dangerous nature of the wolf dog?
Yes.
As a professional dog trainer, you know some facts about the wolf dog breed, correct?
Yes.
Is it true that these dogs are big and powerful?
Yes.
Is it true that a wolf dog is trained to only attack on command?
Yes.
Is it true that a wolf dog is trained using unique words, often from different languages, to make sure that it doesn't attack at some inopportune time?
Yes.
The prosecution would like to enter Zeus's training graduation report as prosecution exhibit number 7.
I believe it's 7. Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
All right, it'll be admitted.
Is it true that a mere week before graduation that Zeus was still showing signs of being in control instead of Peak being in control?
Yes.
Is it true that it seemed like they, Peak and the wolf dog, Zeus, needed a little more polish at the time of graduation?
Yes.
According to your statement, isn't it true that you believe he, Zeus, was just doing what nature and his training told him to do?
Yes.
If a dog and its owner graduate from your training program, would you expect the dog to attack without the proper command?
No.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Ma'am, you may be excused. Any additional witnesses from the defense?
Yes, Your Honor. I would like to call to the stand Mr. Gene Potter.
All right, sir, if you'll come forward and be sworn.
Please raise your hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Where do you live, Mr. Potter?
I live on Briarcliff Avenue across the street from Dale.
Do the teenagers that reside near your home in Briarcliff Avenue continually pester you?
Yes, they're getting to be a real problem.
Did you witness Mrs. Peak being unable to have full control over her Lupo hound, Zeus, while being outside of her home?
Yes, I feared approaching them.
And did you witness Brian Hamilton throw a tennis ball repeatedly at Mrs. Peak's home?
Yes, he threw the ball 3 times at the house and once at Dale.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Any cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. Where is your house located in relation to the defendant's?
Across the street.
What is your relationship to the defendant?
I am a mere friend and neighbor.
Is it true that prior to the Peak getting the wolf dog, you used to go over to his house?
Yes.
Is it true that you stopped going to Peak's home after he got the dog?
Yes.
Is it true that you stopped visiting him because you were not sure that he could control the dog if the dog had the mind to escape or to run away or chase something?
Yes.
Do you recall times when you would see Peak and Zeus out for a walk and it looked like he was having problems keeping control of the dog and keeping up with the dog's pace?
Yes.
Where were you on March 12, 2004 at the time of the attack in question?
I was sitting in my front room.
Is it true that the defendant was in the open doorway with his back to the outside immediately before the wolf dog attacked?
Yes.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
All right, sir, you may step down. Any additional witnesses from the defense?
No, Your Honor.
Are there any motions at this time?
No, Your Honor.
All right, in that case, are the parties ready to proceed with closing statements in this matter?
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, for the prosecution, given that you have the burden of proof, do you want to split your time and give part of your closing first and then give a rebuttal after the defense, or you want to use all your time at the beginning?
All our time.
All right, you may proceed.
Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the witnesses and the evidence the state has provided today clearly show that Dale Peak is guilty of murder and possession of a dangerous animal. The defense witness, Leslie Harris, is paid well for training dogs and should be considered a biased witness. The training/graduation report indicates that Zeus and Peak graduated from training approximately 3 weeks prior to the attack in question. A mere week before graduation, Harris reports that Zeus was still showing signs of being in control, not Peak being the one in control. Peak is guilty of being in possession of a dangerous animal, Zeus, a wolf dog. Peak had information at her disposal that detailed the dangerous tendencies of the wolf dog breed. The dog was unconfined at the time of the attack as required by law. The wolf dog Zeus was and is a dangerous animal. Even the Army stopped using the specially bred wolf dogs as guard dogs, which were bred to be dangerous to humans. The Army abandoned using these types of animals because they were unable to exercise adequate control over the wolf dog. Peak is guilty of murder of the young Brian Hamilton. Peak has previously implied an intense dislike for the youth with all her complaints to the police. 12 complaints in 2 months show this as shown on the summary of police reports. She purchased the wolf dog with the intent to counteract the harassment. Our eyewitness, Chris Holliday, who was at the scene of the attack, testified that he heard Peak say something to the dog before the attack. And he testified that the defendant did not stop the attack for several minutes and was even smiling during the attack. Chris and his friend Jesse yelled at Peak and begged her to stop the attack. The defense's own witness, Mr. Potter, the neighbor across the street, and his 911 transcript show that the attack lasted more than 3 minutes. Under state law, the charge of murder requires malice aforethought. Malice aforethought does not require days or weeks of planning.